All ye seed of Jacob, glorify him and fear him. All ye seed of Israel. For he has not despised nor abhorred the affliction of the afflicted, neither has he hid his face from him. But when he cried unto him, he heard. I will praise thee in the great congregation. I will pay my vows.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to Line by Line Bible Studies. We're continuing today in the Gospel of John. We're going to cut it a little bit short at the end today. I was really trying hard to get OBS Studio to play nice with my image viewer, and it just refused. But I'm going to use Photoshop instead, and we end around them. Don't need their photo viewer. And yeah, the built-in one is terrible on Windows 11, I gotta say. The one for Windows 7 was much superior. Let's read. Yeah, we'll begin. We'll just begin right here. And honestly, yeah, I don't think I'm going to take up the whole study talking about these last few verses, but I have some little extra treats here. I did some extra work in preparation, yes. And now when even was about 5 minutes worth, but it's worth it. And now when the even was come, because it was the preparation, that is the day before the Sabbath, Joseph of Arimathea, an honorable counselor, which also waited for the kingdom of God, came, and went in boldly unto Pilate, and craved the body of Jesus. And Pilate marveled if he were already dead. And calling unto him the centurion, he asked him whether he had been any while dead. And when he knew it of the centurion, he gave the body to Joseph. And he bought fine linen, and took him down, and wrapped him in the linen, and laid him in a sepulchre which was hewn out of a rock, and rolled a stone into the door of the sepulchre. And Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of Joseph, beheld where he was laid. You know, we were talking extensively last time about the cry. And I remember that, and I forgot when I was talking about, I forgot that in the Gospel of John, I believe he says, "It is finished." And were his final words. But also our semi-final, it's hard to tell exactly what's the last thing he said. He cried a little. There's a couple things he says near the end. One is, "Father, into your hands I commend my spirit." And also, "It is finished." He might have said all that, you know. I mean, I presume it all to be true, actually. That what he said, he said. Actually, that stuff I'll be surprised if I found out that wasn't pretty accurate. Because I believe, you know, like I said, in spite of, you know, the Bible doesn't have to be perfect for me to believe in Jesus. That's what people, they want the Bible itself to be a miracle of a book, instead of being as plausibly deniable as just about everything. You know what I mean? There's always like some way to weasel your way to unbelief. Anyways, before I go on lecturing, let's read a little. Do I want to read the whole chapter? Definitely not. Actually, it's short. Let's just read it. And because some people don't even believe a lot of this belongs, but we're going to talk about it anyways. And when the Sabbath was past, Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of James, and Salome, had bought sweet spices that they might come and anoint him. And very early in the morning, the first day of the week, they came unto the sepulchre at the rising of the sun. And they said among themselves, "Who shall roll away the stone from the door of the sepulchre?" And when they looked, they saw that the stone was rolled away, for it was very great. And entering into the sepulchre, they saw a young man sitting on the right side, clothed in a long white garment. And they were affrighted. And he saith unto them, "Be not affrighted. Ye seek Jesus of Nazareth, which was crucified. He is risen. He is not here. Behold the place where they laid him. But go your way, tell his disciples and Peter that he goeth before you into Galilee. There shall ye see him, as he said unto you." And they went out quickly, and fled from the sepulchre, for they trembled and were amazed. Neither said they anything to any man, for they were afraid. Now when Jesus was risen early the first day of the week, he appeared first to Mary Magdalene, out of whom he had cast 7 devils. And she went and told them that had been with him, as they mourned and wept. And when they had heard that he was alive, and had been seen of her, believed not. After that he appeared in another form unto 2 of them, as they walked and went into the country. And they went and told it to the residue, neither believed they them. Afterward he appeared unto the 11 as they sat at meat, and upbraided them with their unbelief and hardness of heart, because they believed not them which had seen him after he was risen. And he said unto them, Go ye into all the world, and preach the gospel to every creature. He that believeth and is baptized shall be saved, but he that believeth not shall be damned. And these signs shall follow them that believe. In my name they shall cast out devils. They shall speak with new tongues. They shall take up serpents. And if they drink any deadly thing, it shall not hurt them. They shall lay hands on the sick, and they shall recover. So then, after the Lord had spoken unto them, he was received up into heaven, and sat on the right hand of God. And they went forth and preached everywhere, the Lord working with them, and confirming the word with signs following. Amen. Now, we'll talk about chapter 16 in a minute. We can deal with that. Let's talk about the last few verses. First of all, the preparation day. That is the day before the Sabbath. This gets into that issue of, on what day was Jesus crucified? And I can't think of a less interesting subject, to tell you the truth. Some people, and for reason, because, well, there's a lot of different reasons. And it's not a subject I find myself steeped in. One time I was sort of steeped in it because of the Sabbath. And, I mean, as far as, well, not because of the Sabbath, because Arnold Murray taught that Jesus was crucified, I think, on Wednesday, or is it Thursday? I forget. Because a lot of people believe that, like, well, he had to be in the ground for 3 full days. You know, and so to get him obviously risen on Sunday, I mean, nobody disputes that. So they'll count backwards, Saturday, Friday, Thursday. Well, he's got to be in the tomb for 3 days. He was crucified in the, at the end of a day. That hardly counts. So they want to have 72 hours in the grave. They're looking for a full 72 hours. And the thing is, traditionally, when you watch the flow, and Bullinger does a good job explaining that, like, during the Passover, there would be an extra Sabbath so that it shifts everything over. So, meaning that there would be a secondary Sabbath. There'd be a preparation day, and there'd be a Sabbath that is the actual Passover, the holy day. You know what I mean? After Passover Eve. The day of preparation is the day when you prepare for the Passover. The thing is, they had the Passover. It wasn't exactly. Was it the Passover? I always thought Jesus was crucified on Passover, on the preparation day leading into Passover. But whatever. It's like I said, I don't like to get argumentative about it. I've read literature from both sides, and I see there's a valid argument on either side. But quite frankly, I find that it doesn't matter. Yes, part of a day you can say 3 days. It's like, well, in 3 days could be today, tomorrow, and the next day. The day after tomorrow could be the 3rd day. Like he says, he will rise again the 3rd day. And people have argued about this intensely over time, and I just find it to be whatever. You want to argue about that? I got more important things to look after than arguing about how many angels can dance on the head of a pin and on what day of the week Jesus was crucified. I don't lean in either direction, believe it or not. I just literally don't care. Like, when I read the Gospels like that, I'm not thinking, like, what day of the week was it? Just seriously. I mean, it gives the thing, it was the day before the Sabbath. So people figured Good Friday, right? And I watched, like I said, I read a tract written by someone who was very adamantly on the Good Friday side of the things. And they wrote a very good argument. They made a good argument. And on the other side, I always found the argument compelling because, like I said, I belonged to a church that taught that. The thing is, when I was part of the Spirit of Truth Church in Wisconsin, it began to bother me because though it wasn't part of the Anglo-Israelism that I rejected, it wasn't part of the the serpent seed doctrine that I rejected, or the it's a doctrine that is not really like nobody was like, oh, people who believe that Jesus was crucified on Wednesday are going to hell. Nobody cares about that. I mean, some people might, because for some people, and I'm one of those people on some level, because I believe, I've definitely taught in the past, and I still do, a level of perfection that we should be striving for. I just want to make sure people don't get carried away and start thinking and looking for it where it isn't. Well, you should look for it where it isn't so that you can find out all the imperfections. Anyways, but and to have perfect doctrine, like every lie is sort of everything we say false about God is a could be considered like a micro heresy. Like when I get something wrong, like is that like if I say, here's the thing, if I say for sure Jesus was crucified on Friday, and anyone who doesn't believe that isn't of God, no, Jesus was crucified on Wednesday. If you can't see that, then you can't see the truth. If I take those positions, then both those positions I consider to be heretical. Both those positions, because we believe Jesus was crucified on a Friday. That's not heretical, but but once you bring it to the point of where you're saying, oh, this is putting your soul in danger, you got your priorities screwed up. You understand that some things are sufficiently ambiguous and sufficiently unimportant for the knowledge required for salvation and such, and to walk the Christian walk. I mean, you don't really need that. And that's why I felt embarrassed when someone from our church was saying, we are Spirit of Truth Church, and we believe that Jesus was crucified on a Wednesday, and the earth is 6,000 years old, and these are things that I don't believe. And I'm sitting in the church thinking like, well, now I have a problem, because I know I've got to say something. This is one of the reasons I don't like going to church, because every time I go, it's gonna be, because these places are not perfect. No. And then say, do I hate them because I don't go in and invade their church and upset them? I mean, it's a really hard call. Because again, like I said, to me, it's not so much. Honestly, I think I could be very, what would we call? I consider myself a very open person, and I don't think I'd be the nitpicker I was when I was young. I won't be the nitpicker. But the point is, if I go into a place and they're picking nits, I might have a problem with that. Yeah, I mean, if they're preaching legalism, I'm gonna have a problem with that. They're preaching that something is at the center that doesn't belong at the center. Like, this is what we believe. Like, I don't want to be defined by that. I do not want to be defined by my belief in how old the earth is, those are all the things. When Christians define themselves by those things, that's what turns people away from the faith. When you define yourself as I don't believe in evolution, I don't do this, I do this. You define yourself by all these issues that you think are important. You think they're important, but they're not. They're simply not. Now, Joseph of Arimathea comes, an honorable counselor. I wonder what that means. Is there any special Greek? I'm just going to look at it real quick on my own here. Honorable is the Greek eushemon, and the quick definition is comely. Okay. Counselor. All right, I'm going to look a little more deeply here, and I'm going to take you along for the ride. We're going to go for a couple rides today, actually. It's going to be like a field trip. Alrighty. Okay. So, boulettes. Let's see if I did. Boulettes. See, there's the phonetic pronunciation or spelling, helping you pronounce it. A counselor, a member of a city council, not someone who sells, but someone who's on a council. You know what I mean? So he's a politician, an honorable one, which is rare, right? Eushemon, comely, seemly, decorous, an honorable person in society, wealthy and influential. All the those are the kind of things. Honorable would be a good choice. Honorable and esteemed. That esteemed might even be a better word in my opinion. Let's see, do I say that? I'm just making that up, but I'm just thinking the feeling. It comes from a word, it means well good. It combines the word that means well and good. Oh, it's from the word that means well, sorry, and the word that means outward form or figure. Properly of good form. That's what I mean by esteemed. Well-fashioned, hence seemly. Seemly is related to esteem. You know, how things seem is how they are esteemed. And seemly means desirable. So, what did they put in there? They put in quotes because it's not an English word we use much, but it is actually of good use. We could use words like that. And we do here in the Bible studies. So he is that. He is a member of the city council or whatever, some sort of political thing. He is a political guy. He's a connected person who's also wealthy, Joseph of Arimathea. There are a lot of stories about him. That's where the legends of the traditions of Glastonbury. I suppose it is supposed that he was actually Jesus' uncle, I believe, unless I'm way off track on my memory on that. Like I said, this is not something I explore. If you want to explore it, the traditions of Glastonbury and the young Jesus and Joseph of Arimathea, you know, I hesitate to even mention the existence of such things because, like I said, you can get caught up in all this, like, ooh, peeking into the closet of these things that are, oh, wow, wouldn't it be cool if that was the true thing, that Jesus was doing that? And it's a bit much because we don't really know. And it could be just a fanciful tradition, story people told each other. Oh, when Jesus was a young boy, he came to these isles and da-da-da. If harmless stories become traditions, become legends, become somebody's, oh, that really happened. Okay. And, you know, hey, it's sometimes difficult to tell where to stop. You know, you start believing things, especially when you're credulous. I was kind of credulous as a child, but I learned to be skeptical because men lie. Red alert, you know, ding, ding, ding. You ever heard of this? Men lie. Oh, wow. People will lie to you about things that seem to be serious in order to trick you and get a rise out of you. I mean, kids, you know. I became very skeptical and very defensive for good reasons. But, you know, and now I don't find myself to be particularly credulous of anything. If anything, I'm more of a doubting Thomas. But that also, well, whatever. I had a point about that. Oh, but that's the point. It's like if you are still credulous and tend to believe anything, you know, religious in nature, you gotta be careful. Take heed how you hear and with what measure you meet. I mean, it's like, because if we just accept every and anything that people say about the Lord, well, there's a lot of things said about him that aren't true, you know. But anyways, I don't know the truth of that, but it's definitely not a subject I'm particularly well steeped in. So, which also waited for the kingdom of God. He went boldly unto Pilate and craved the body of Jesus. I would like the body of Jesus. He went boldly. He didn't, you know. He probably had a good reputation, and he felt he had the capital to go boldly to Pilate and say, I would have the body of Jesus. He was not probably a very obnoxious person. That, you know, one whom probably the Romans respected. They want people who are going to just keep peace in the empire. You know, when you have a competent the Romans loved competence. You know, they absolutely, and they used local people who were competent to administer their empire for the most part. You know, the local rulers would rule, and the Roman would provide like the overstructure, the empire level. And so he marveled. He's dead. He was surprised because it's only, you know, he'd only been out there 6 hours. I mean, it wasn't like, you know, sometimes people last for days, you know. And so he called unto him the centurion and asked him whether is he dead? Is he already dead? Already? For any while? And when he knew it of the centurion, he gave the body to Joseph. Okay. He bought fine linen, took him down, wrapped him in the linen, laid him in a sepulchre, which was hewn out of rock. All right, which was, and roll a stone to the door. There's so much that could be said about that thing. You know, people say, well, you know, how did it get through? And there's all kinds of research been done about, you know, what happened to it. They've traced the history of it back to to within centuries, back to what they called the image of Edessa, which became the Mandylion of when it was moved to Constantinople. And there's a lot of explanation of like why the folds are on the shroud. I brought along some study aids to let's just look at some pictures here. Which one do I want first? Hold on here. Because I talk about it a lot. Let's just look at the most. First of all, a lot of times you'll see pictures of the shroud. Let me see if I can get this right. I don't know if it's going to work right. Hold on a second here. Let me see if I fix. Oh, I got to change this a little bit. Just a bit. Ink, ink, ink. All right, that's better. Be a little bigger. All right, that's fine. Yeah, whatever. I'm not gonna sweat it too much here. But apparently, I am. Okay, and that'll have to do. Because I forgot I needed a window. Here we go. Actually, authentic. That me actually wrapped him. This is the book I was talking about, and I want to remember. I give you the time. It's The Shroud of Turin: An Adventure of Discovery with Mary and Alan Wanger, and it is the wildest book I've ever owned. Perhaps except for Forbidden Archaeology, the full like this one. I literally could not finish that book because it's just so academic and just loaded with just it is well researched. It's all kinds of stuff. But like this one, let me see if I can find something that'll just explain like how insane some of this stuff is. Not insane, but just for some people it's very controversial. For example, like there's like the on this chest area, like right there. Like I don't know if I can. Let me see if I can. Okay, when I look at their images, all right. When I look at their images, like this magnified. Let me see if I can just get this real good here. See that magnified image? See how much more detail there is in that? They compare this amulet right here to that image there. You know? Anyways, and there's all kinds of photos that look, I'm like, wow, these are incredible photos. And I'm like, I don't even know how to explain to people. Whenever I talk about the shroud, I almost don't talk about this stuff because it seems nuts. Like I said, and like, they have a cool picture of like what a first century phylactery looked like this. And this little picture right here, actual size. That's actual size. That when he talked about making broad their phylacteries, and this has been opened up to reveal the compartments where the little scriptures were written, this one on top, so it'd actually be folded in half. But there's one designed just like this, visible on the forehead of Jesus Christ, in which he made, when he was up there as the King of the Jews, he was dressed like a Jew. Well, except for being in the state of undressed, but he still had his phylacteries on, apparently. And there's a triangle on the forehead. Let me show you this real quick. Last thing. One of the cool things, like that, it's like a weird thing. And even the people who are the big time shroud advocates kind of distance themselves from these guys because, like I said, it's really amazing. And they show some of the cool like skeleton. This is one of the books, like I said, adventure. They will, if you want to know about the most odd things, the weirdest things about the Shroud of Turin, this is the book that'll take you there. Marion Allen Wanger. And it's all about interpreting images. So it's a little bit, some people say it's like looking at clouds, right? You can find images. Of course, the idea that there are coins present on the eyes and stuff like that. The matches look pretty good, I gotta say. At least I don't think they've doctored the images or anything. It's just that more modern photographers who have taken good photographs of it don't find the same things. And I don't know what that's about. And I don't know, maybe they haven't photographed it properly or something. Maybe there needs to be some sort of high definition scan done. Maybe that's been done. I know the thing is, I probably could have brought up a better image because I believe the church has made high quality images available. I thought there was some place where you could go look at that. Anyways, I believe that's out there. So they should, because it's something that really belongs to humanity. It's like everyone should be able to look at that. All right. How much have we used? Okay, only 20 minutes in. Okay, good. That means we have more time for stuff to talk about. So the Feynman, there it is. I'm not going to try to make a big case for it. It's something for you to investigate. If you like I said, I don't make it like a point of doctrine. That's something for you to take or leave. I believe it. I don't think you have to believe it to be saved, but definitely not. And but it can. If you do believe it, you may find it encouraging. I'm not saying you should believe everything just because it has, like I said, everything just because it has to do with Jesus. I used to not believe in the Shroud of Turin. Not that I believe in it, but I do believe it, that it's authentic. I don't believe that it's going to save me or anything like that. I don't believe in it like I have faith in God for salvation. But there are a lot of things we believe are true. That's not the same as putting your faith in it. That's the thing. People often think, I got to believe God exists and that Jesus died on the cross, like the bare facts. No, you have to believe it in the sense of you're trusting in that for your salvation, in Him. It's trust in a man, in a person, Jesus Christ. Not in a set of facts, historical or otherwise. Okay, so... Wait, why was I saying all that? Oh, the shroud, yeah. Take it or leave it. Okay, that's all. The fact that he wasn't in the tomb, though, none of us is allowed to disagree with it. If you don't believe that, if you don't believe Jesus rose from the dead, you're simply not a Christian. You're not a Christian. You may be pretending to be. You may have taken the name. That is the definition of a nominal Christian. Someone who does not believe in the resurrection only has the name of Christian. They are not in any ways a believer in Jesus Christ, because you can't be. Period. I mean, that's just it. Christ be not risen. There's nothing. There's no Christianity. That's the whole basis of Christianity exists because Jesus rose from the dead. His disciples would have all just dissipated, and there might have been some writings about him. But coming back from the dead and giving them that hope inspired them to do great things. And you consider from that little following of the band of followers how that it set off an explosion. You know, there's no person in history we have more who is more had more of an impact on literature, on all kind. You can find, meaning, if you destroyed every Bible in the world, you could put the Bible together just from quotes and all the other literature. You could put it all back together, especially Jesus, especially the things about Jesus. You can reconstruct it from everywhere else. You know what I mean? Like, you can't just destroy the Bibles. You have to everything Bible related, everything not Bible related, all the classic literature, all that stuff has to go out the window if you want to eradicate the scriptures from their influence. And I mean, not just the scriptures. I mean, specifically Jesus Christ and the things he said and did, the way they've gotten into everything. Like I said, go the extra mile. You know, people don't even understand where these things come from. I was saying people are talking about like getting rid of Congress, you know, right? And hey, you know, I sort of have a similar feeling. Not getting rid of the institution. They meant that. But whether you get rid of the institution or not, whatever you do, yeah, I was like, well, you know, I've suggested, I'm like, well, maybe we need to move the Capitol and restart the government and, you know, just every agency that ever existed. But even if you totally rebuilt the Capitol in a different location, and which I think eventually is going to happen, by the way, because I don't know, everyone seems to think so. But even if it doesn't, right, whatever. Even if you did all that, the parable Jesus taught about the unclean spirit going out, you know, when an unclean spirit is cast out of man, you throw the, you know, I gotta say it, that's old. You throw the bastards out. There's no wrong with saying bastards. You know, throw the bastards out, and we throw them out. How do you keep them just the same people from just coming back in? Same kinds of people. You know, they go back and they come back with 7 devils more wicked than themselves. This is sort of the thing. You know, like, it's hard to eradicate corruption. It's hard to eradicate evil out of someone. You can't just throw it out. You have to replace it with something. You have to have that thing ready. That's one of the reasons the Trump presidency was a mixed bag, let's say. There were very good things and some not so good things. And a lot of those not so good things came about because he was not prepared. He didn't have the people in place to help him do what he wanted to do. He had all kinds of opposition from entrenched interest in the government. And he didn't know how the system worked, so he wasn't able to do much to reform it, other than like talk about reforming it and mention things in tweets. This is how it should happen. That's how it should be. He's not effective like that. It's one of the reasons why I'm not supporting him. As much as I feel guilty, I want to support him, just because of all the crap they've done. I would encourage. Well, I'm going to tell you. Maybe I'll talk about that later. Let's not talk about politics right now. Anyways, they came to anoint his body very early in the morning on the first day of the week. No dispute about that. Like, everyone knows where we are there. Now, again, like, you go to the end of different gospels, and I'm not going to do it because I don't care. We're not going to compare who was at the tomb when. Just know this, that if you do, you will find it very confusing. I remember I read it through, and I just didn't feel like I wanted to unwind the puzzle, because it didn't seem like, to me, it could be unwound. And like I said, God created a world in which you can say this, that his handiwork, it's all visible, it's all manifest, but only if you can see it. Only if the Holy Spirit reveals it to you, that your brain could turn over and say, yeah. You know what I mean? Well, that's what the scriptures declare, that you can't find God unless he reveals himself to you. That's because there's a certain level of plausible deniability. I mean, it's plausible, meaning the story of evolution, of the Big Bang, that it all came by chance, seems plausible to people. And God has created a universe in which it is plausible to believe God doesn't exist. Someone could take that point of view. And I think God wanted it that way. He wanted people to be able to not believe in him. so that they could do what they want to do, so they could reveal their nature. And every human being who has ever been born has revealed their nature to be sinful, very sinful. Certainly I was, and have been, and am, but less so. I will say that. I'm certainly not the sinner I was. That's for sure. I'm not a sinner, like in that sense. Sinner to me is someone who lives a life of sin and pursues it, and is unrepentant. It's like when I sin a sin, I'm sorry. I don't want to. I'm not a sinner. I'm a saint. I don't believe in the concept of sinner saints, because it's like, that's like I said, you can't have bitter and sweet water out of the same fountain. Now, sometimes that happens, but that contradiction can't exist. Just like Jesus said, you can't serve two masters. A sinner saint is an impossibility. You're going to either be a sinner or you're going to be a saint, and you got to make sure you're moving in the right direction. Yeah, I understand. It does kind of coexist, but that's the point. That sinner saint, like staticness, I hate. Like saying that's what we are. That's what we're supposed to be. We're just sinners who are also saints. We just do. No. You're not a sinner. You are called to be a saint. Therefore, you are a saint. Be a saint. You repent. You don't say I'm going to sin tomorrow. Hell no, I'm not going to sin tomorrow. I'm never going to sin again. God help me. God help me. Is that going to be true? Oh, well, someday. Yeah, I'm never going to sin again. That is coming true. That's coming true. I have a future in which there's no sin. Okay? I'm not sure if I'm there yet. That's all. So I can say in faith that I will never sin again. Yes, that's true. Absolutely true. Is it true today? Just like Jesus Christ, I'm saved. Is that true? Well, I'm still in a mortal body, brother. And I'm telling you what, I could die. If I jumped off my barn or put my fingers in the wrong, if I put my fingers in the wrong place, I'll wish I was dead, because I won't be able to play my guitar again. I put my fingers in a lot of dangerous places. I'm surprised I still have my fingers. They're very damaged. And you may have noticed the bruises. It's like these hands. All that they could do, tell you they've done and been through. But yeah. And they're talking among themselves, who's going to roll away the stone? And they saw that it was already rolled away, and it was very big. And they go in, and there's a dude there sitting on the right side, clothed in a long white garment, a young man. And they were frightened. Yeah, there's just some dude in there. That's kind of scary. You expect a dead body. It's weird when you expect something dead to find something alive. I'll tell you that. Right? I mean, think about it. Being around dead people is already spooky. All right? I've never been around dead. Well, I've been around dead people, but I'm saying, you're going early in the morning to anoint the dead body in a cave. It's a little bit, that's a moment. That's not regular everyday kind of work. Preparing a body. It takes, a special kind of love, a devotion to go in and do something like that, for somebody after they're dead. And so that's not, it's not an easy thing, but they're doing it, and they need the stone rolled away, but it's already there. And so they're expecting to have this, we're going to very somberly anoint his body, get him, because on the shroud, he appears to be somewhat clean, but not entirely. There's blood and stuff. I remember there's an argument among the scholars of whether he was washed. Some insisting no, others yes. Because he seems simultaneously a little too clean and also a little too dirty. And one of the position I thought was the most reasonable was that he was quickly, sort of rudimentarily, like maybe rinsed, like someone, they poured water over him perhaps, or something. Because he certainly wasn't scrubbed clean, that's for sure. But anyways, at any rate, he wasn't fully prepared. He had been anointed by the woman before he went to the crucifixion. That oil is probably still on the shroud. I wonder if they've ever looked for it, because it would be in his hair. They should find spikenard, whatever those chemical compositions are. I wonder if they've ever looked for it. I should ask that. I should ask that of Barry Schwartz. I've never asked him a question, but he runs shroud.com. I should go look at the scientific page. I haven't looked in years. I always love going there, like after not looking for years, because at one point I had read every single scientific paper on that page, which was probably about, at the time, maybe 60 or 70. Even the ones that were kind of, I admit some of the ones I skimmed because they were really technical. Started looking at the summary and then the pictures and the graphs and the numbers and kind of trying to get the gist of it. Because, like, when the pandemic said they were like, if you're not a scientist, you got nothing to say about this, blah, blah, blah. I know how to be a scientist. I was trained in those methods. I understand scientific method and how to judge science and how to, we were taught that kind of critical thinking when I went into school. So, when I see someone doing something like there's this one doctor made a brilliant study. He's like, well, Dr. Fauci, far from being the science, hadn't said anything scientific in 4 years, or 3 years, whatever at the time. And the past 3 years, he hasn't said anything. I forgot the guy's accent, but he was deadpanned it. Anyways, science. You know how to judge. Well, I read those things, and you have to read them critically. They don't necessarily mean, the conclusions aren't necessarily what the evidence is giving. You have to actually sometimes look at the evidence yourself and see, are they honestly reaching these conclusions? Is their methodology sound? You don't have to be an expert in a field of something to be able to judge if someone's doing a good job at it. I mean, there may be a certain level of not understanding that you don't have, so you can't say, but you can. Sometimes, detecting BS is not so hard. When someone's muddling their way through and not really, they don't really have what they say they have, it's not so hard to pick out what's wrong with it. Anyways, the young man speaks, and he says, don't be afraid. You look for Jesus of Nazareth, which was crucified. He is risen. He is not here. Behold the place where they laid him. So look that's where they laid him, and they would have seen there the linen. In another place it is described, the linen there by itself and the face cloth, which the face cloth has blood stains that match the shroud of Turin, and the face cloth is called the Sudarum of Oviedo, and it has a history going back to the 7th century. It was, meaning it's been around since at least the 7th century, and it was kept in Spain. But it was compared with the shroud, and the blood marks, they came from the same person. Meaning, there's blood on the shroud. That's not really disputed anymore. And but the blood, the way it flowed, and the stains, they match up. They're congruent. So, if I imagine, if you have a wound, like an interesting wound on your body, or a pattern of wounds, and you put a bandage over it, you take it off, right? There'd be blood soaked in, right? And then you put another bandage on, there'd be blood soaked in, but it'd be a little different. But it'd be the same pattern. And that's what you have with the Sudarum of Oviedo, which is the first Band-Aid, because it is just blood. And then the shroud, less so, but the pattern is the same. And you can see there's been done significant work on that also. But I always say, I love the Shroud of Turin. It's an amazing artifact, and thank God he left it. It helps skeptical minds come to faith, and it does. Or at least they're good. I remember this one guy gave a talk. I think was it a TED talk? I don't remember if it was TED or something else, or probably TEDx or something like that. But basically, he was an unbeliever who was an art student who was trying to explain to people why the Shroud of Turin is not art and probably is real, as far as it's the authentic shroud of Jesus Christ. And he believes that the marking on it is what led them to believe he'd been resurrected, but he did not believe in the resurrection. I don't remember him really dealing with the body of Jesus as far as the question of what happened to it. Well, maybe they saw the mark and they thought it meant he had been risen, and they thought that we better hide his body so people will understand that he did rise. But they didn't use the cloth like that. In fact, it's probable that his disciples, while they saved the cloth, or someone did, it may not have been known immediately that the image on there was it had the blood marks of his crucifixion. I mean, so, that part of it, you'd look at it and be like, this is the thing that wrapped his dead body. And so that was kept close and secret for a long time by someone I know not who. But there's actually a legend about it, the legend of the image of Edessa. But we're not going to go into legends. Except the legend of I told an atheist a long time ago, I believe in the legendary Jesus Christ, the one who does miracles and raised himself from the dead, walked on water. That's the one I believe in. I don't believe in some, other version of him that was lesser. I only believe in the full and complete version. And I know he rose from the dead, not because I have a shroud, not because the book told me so. It's because I called on his name. I said, Lord Jesus, grant me my heart's desire. And by that I meant I was seeking the Holy Ghost. And he chose to demonstrate his willingness to grant my request by causing that power to come over me that I've described on numerous occasions. I'm not going to right now. Let's just say that. But I know he lives because I called on him and he responded. That to me is the most powerful thing. The most powerful thing. In fact, almost everyone I know who believes more based on something that happened in their personal experience than they do just because they read the Bible. You know, though the Bible itself can be quite a converting experience. The Word of God is powerful. But a lot of times people's unbelief is strong. And unless God opens our hearts to it, the scriptures can just seem like a fantasy talk, you know. And that's how it is for a lot of people. Like I said, it's plausible to them. You know what I mean by plausible? This idea of plausibility, it became important to me because someone was using it to describe how people felt about masks. It's not science to say you put a mask on and it stops transmission of disease. That's not scientific. That's plausibility. Because it seems plausible that if you put a barrier in front of your mouth, it'll prevent things from going through. But it's actually like trying to stop mosquitoes with a chain link fence. It does absolutely nothing. Literally nothing. The idea that because you think, oh, that's covering my mouth, it's keeping the viruses. Wrongo. Now I was going to say it probably reduces the velocity with which they are ejected from your mouth. I mean, that's true because it's not quite like mosquitoes in a chain link fence because a chain link fence doesn't actually arrest the wind like that, does it? Or I don't know. I mean, I definitely think that you can't feel my breath as much in front of a mask. So I mean, you see how I am? I like to look at both sides of it, but still, it doesn't actually prevent the spread. Masks don't really do much of anything. They do a little bit, I guess, right? You're not supposed to say they do nothing, but they do very little. As far as they're not actually a barrier. What I would say the best thing that you could say they do is they limit how far your breath can travel. That's about it. They limit how far your breath can travel, and that's true. So is that something? Probably, you know. Not worth it though, because also they limit the amount of oxygen you take in. They also expose you to your rebreathing bacteria and other things that you may be best. You know, this is your exhaust port, and it's good to allow the exhaust to get out and away from your body. You know, it's the exhaust port. You don't want to just, you know, like all the exhaust, think about it like your dryer vent. If you leave that clogged up, it's not good. If you have a clogged vent for your furnace, bad, very bad. It needs to be vented. You end up with carbon monoxide building up in your house. You wake up dead. Things need to be vented. Okay. So I'm out of time. As much as I'd like to take another 10 minutes, I can't. So we'll finish this tomorrow, I have no doubt. Okay, we didn't really talk about Jesus appearing. We're really at verse 9. So, yeah. They went out quickly, fled from the sepulchre. Okay, right. There we go. I got to go. So thanks for joining me today. I look forward to being back tomorrow, which I fully expect to do, and hopefully, I do fully expect to finish it. There's plenty to say about the ending here. We may not finish it. That's a possibility. Well, that would be fine. I'm not sure what we're going to do next. Something in the Old Testament, no doubt. I've covered almost every New Testament book except perhaps Philemon. You know, and we will go back and recover. I would like to do like Matthew again sometime soon. I was thinking about doing Proverbs. I think that's what I said. I was thinking of doing Proverbs. And I think Proverbs, and then I had other thoughts of like doing things in the area of like Samuel or something like that. But we'll see. Well, the Proverbs would be a good choice. I think we could use some wisdom right now. I think, couldn't we? Yeah, a little trip back into the wisdom that would help me. Anyways, thanks for joining me. Remember, the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. And here we go. Things like this.
All ye seed of Jacob, glorify him and fear him. All ye seed of Israel. For he has not despised nor abhorred the affliction of the afflicted, neither has he hid
And this is Psalm 22, by the way.
I will praise thee in the great congregation.